Well, India's multi-party delegations are heading back home after this massive diplomatic exercise of explaining India's position with regard to Operation Sindoor. With me is Panda, who is BJP MP and also BJP's National Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Panda, for speaking to NDTV. You went to some of the most difficult countries because these are countries like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait and Algeria. These are countries which have historically had have supported Pakistan. How was your experience? What are your best takeaways?
My experience was actually quite different because these nations, our Prime Minister Modi ji has worked very hard to develop rapport with their leaderships to further strengthen our friendship. Some of these nations have awarded our Prime Minister their highest civilian honors. We have already entered into military cooperation with some of these countries. And the economic cooperation is going great guns, investment, trade. So it's a very different situation. And as it is, I don't think India really needs to justify itself because we have a track record of thousands of years. And these countries have also had a relationship with us. India has been seen as the beacon where people used to come for knowledge, for spirituality, for name and fame. So they have that image about India. And in recent years, again, we have started regaining that aura. They've seen us be the fastest growing large economy for several years. We've, in just recent years, overtaken the UK to get to 5th position, now to come to 4th position. So they all want to be associated with us. Okay. And they see Pakistan as a problem child. The impression that you were just talking about is, yes, I'm sure it was true in earlier years and earlier decades, but it has changed a lot. Right. And so our job was to take the message forward about the new normal, because we've been in this cycle of cross-border terrorism right from 1947, when Pakistan, after partition, sent the first cross-border terrorists into Jammu and Kashmir. And we've tried everything else in the past, including restraining ourselves. We didn't react after Mumbai. That has changed. And that message is received loud and clear that we will retaliate. We have called their nuclear bluff and exposed it as fake. We will impose a very heavy cost on them. We will take this forward with economic sanctions on trade, on shipping, on visas, on water. All of this intended to push Pakistan in the right direction, to change its policies of supporting terror.
Right. Mr. Panda, but when you talk about the FATF, do you feel that there was positive response of putting Pakistan in the grey list of the FATF and also economic sanctions? These are countries with a lot of influence on the OIC, which has also been misused by Pakistan. Did you see any positive response coming on that front?
Yes, absolutely. And let me put this in context. So all these 4 countries have themselves been victims of terror. And they've all taken not only strong stands, but very strong actions against terrorist groups. Algeria, for instance, has actually had terror attacks by Pakistani-trained terrorists back in the 90s. So they understand exactly where we are coming from. Another thing is, Pakistan has tried to cultivate these nations as a fellow Islamic country. But there's been a huge divergence. Now, while Pakistan encourages jihadis and churns out these fundamentalists and then funds them, trains them, arms them, these countries have been on an opposite path. They have cracked down against fundamentalism. Secondly, these countries have in the past given financial aid to Pakistan, which they have seen being misused. Now, whether it is Kuwait, Bahrain, all these other countries, they have developed their own infrastructure. They've got fabulous healthcare and education systems. They've become world-class. And Pakistan is where it was, or even worse off, with tens of millions of children not in school or in only fundamentalist teaching environments. So they realize how Pakistan has diverged away from them. So the setting was very well set for us to go. And the unity that our delegation represents, between the 8 members representing different parts of India, different religions of India, different languages of India, different parties in government and opposition, and yet with a single voice, had a huge impact.
So how was that experience? Tell us, because while you were there was a lot of politics playing out on Operation Sindoor. The opposition has been saying that the government has politicized this issue. In fact, today Rahul Gandhi has also said that it was one tweet by Trump which made the centre surrender, and this whole demand for special session. How do you see the opposition's position on this?
I think in the search for chatpata news, sometimes perspective is lost. The reality is that not only is all of India united on this, every section of society, but even in the polity, everybody, even the Congress party's members were out there speaking up for India on various delegations. I think you're referring to 2 or 3 frustrated individuals, and I wouldn't call them the opposition in its entirety, because members of their own party were going and batting for India. So let's not get carried away by the frustrations of some individuals who've tried repeatedly and failed. You really have to see the respect that these nations have for India and for its leadership, particularly Prime Minister Modi, for you to recognize what a fallacy it is for somebody to try and take such cheap shots. I don't want to get drawn into that, because right now is the moment that we must cherish and celebrate this unity in the polity and across the nation.
So Panda, also, once you're back, you had an important meeting with the EAM. So clearly this is going to be a journey in progress. Tell us what more can come out of this, because you've come back with learnings. How do you expect all of this to be put in practice? What is going to be the way forward?
We had a very fruitful discussion with Dr. Jaishankar. And of course, he had been keeping track, because these were official delegations and our embassies were coordinating and giving updates. But it was also important to hear from us, our first-hand experience and feedback. And one of the biggest takeaways is all these nations want to work together with India. As I said, we've already had military cooperation. Joint military exercises have been ongoing for the last couple of years. They want to take that forward. They are seeking Indian investment and access to Indian markets. But most importantly, they want to work closer together with India on the global stage, including in many multilateral organizations. And some of these nations are members. For example, 2 of the nations we visited are currently members of the United Nations Security Council. Some of them have had a role in the past in sanctioning Pakistan under the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF watch list, the grey list, which for a period saw Pakistan constrained and reduced number of terrorist incidents. But since Pakistan has got released of that a couple of years ago, they're again back to their old habits. So this desire to work together bodes very well for us in the future.
Right, sir. My last question, did you also face the challenge of a perception war? Because the international media has also been writing things about the India-Pakistan conflict in a very different way. Do you think that was a challenge that you've faced while you were in Saudi Arabia, for instance?
Not in the least. Various countries and various outlets have their own axe to grind. Now the leaderships of these nations are well versed in realpolitik. They understand what's what. They understand very well that even today, Pakistan's history books teach that they won the 1971 war, despite losing East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh. So Pakistan's propaganda doesn't last very long. So yes, they tried a very energetic propaganda war, but you will see today, for the last few days, many Pakistani commentators, including politicians, including journalists, including activists, influencers, are openly speaking out, questioning their own government, because all their claims are falling flat, because Pakistan hasn't been able to prove any claims, whereas the fact that India did damage Pakistan's military facilities after they escalated. We initially targeted only the terrorists. That's our intention. The fact that we damaged their military bases can no longer be hidden. The people of Pakistan have experienced it, are seeing it today. So, no, these nations are very familiar with Pakistan's old tricks. And, many nations have, all these 4 nations have given very strong statements after April 22nd, condemning specifically the terrorist attack on India. I'm quite positive that going forward we are going to see good developments on this front.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Panda, for speaking to NDTV. That was Jay Panda, BJP National Vice President, also an MP who led a very important delegation to Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and other countries, speaking about Pakistani propaganda that always falls flat, something that West Asia is also familiar with. With camera person Manoj, this is Vasudha Venugopal for NDTV.